Jasson Dominguez. Better late than never. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Tuesday, September 10th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. Today on the show, we have some fun prospect promotions to talk about. The Yankees called up Jasson Dominguez. The Rangers plan to call up Kumer Rocker to start later this week. Light night of baseball, so I will put Scotty to the test later on with a game of Guess Who.
Oh,
much more.
I love it. I love games, Frank. Like my whole career is based on a game, so that kind of makes sense.
There you go. Someone was telling me how they were trying to explain to their parents what I do for a living recently, and it was pretty difficult.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
He talks about a fake sport, a game within a game, something like that.
But, well, I just tell when people are from a generation or a walk of life that I know they're not playing fantasy baseball. I just say I write about baseball.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh, you go to a lot of games?" I'm like, "No, I write about fantasy baseball." That's pretty much how the conversation always goes.
I have a really comfortable computer chair that I sit in basically all night. Anyway, let's jump in.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I don't like that, Frank.
That was, of course, Scott White's impersonation of Susan Waldman while I was away on vacation. And with that, Scott, you will kick us off. Player of the night.
Okay, player of the night is Reid Detmers. Reid Detmers did it again. Did it against the Dodgers the first time, did it against the Twins. This time, 2 earned runs in 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, 14 swinging strikes, 9 of them on that slider. The make-or-break pitch for him for the past several years. As that slider has gone, so has Reid Detmers. And it appears to be back, as we pointed out before when he got called back up. His final 3 starts in the minors were great after taking some time to find his footing down there. And now he's come up and gone 2 for 2 against tough offenses. The velocity on the slider wasn't up quite as much as the return start against the Dodgers, but the vertical movement was up 3 inches, which is similar to last time. So it's better. It's better. It's fixed. And I wasn't willing to recommend Detmers for this start because I wanted to see one more, especially since it was a tough matchup against the Twins. But now I'm all in. Reid Detmers, he will line up for 2 starts next week. The first one is against the White Sox.
I'm seeing that now. That's pretty awesome.
I picked him up as soon as I heard he was coming back. It was all for the upcoming week, next week, maybe championship week in your league. 2 starts for Reid Detmers. It's a 7-game week, so we don't even have to worry about if the Angels stick with the 6-man rotation. And if they stay on turn with the 6 this week, Detmers will line up for next Monday and next Sunday. White Sox, Astros. Let's go.
Yeah. Obviously, we love that White Sox matchup. Astros, a little bit tougher here, but Detmers did do it against the Dodgers his last time out. You mentioned the slider, a little bit different here. The 3 more inches of vertical break, the spin rate was way up as well. Not a perfect start because he still allowed some hard contact, 7 hard hits, 94.7 average exit velocity. But hey, 2 quality starts, 18 strikeouts for Detmers in his 2 starts back from the IL. From the minors, 32% rostered. So a little bit of a beat the waiver wire there if you are looking forward to 2 starts for next week. My player of the night is going to be Paul Skenes. And we talk a lot about Paul Skenes, Scott, and I'm wondering, maybe Paul Skenes isn't going to be limited after all, because it didn't really seem to be the case in this start one bit. Up against the Marlins, 6 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts. He had 18 whiffs. He threw 98 pitches in this start. So it all seems like a pretty typical Paul Skenes outing here. He had the 18 whiffs, 7 on the fastball, 5 on the splinter, 4 on the slider, 2 on the changeup. And, something I've noticed about Skenes throughout the season is that he's kind of just evolved throughout the course of the season, where we've seen when he got off to the great start, he was leaning on the splinter, and he started to mix in some other pitches here. And in this start, he threw some more changeups. He threw some more traditional sliders. And they were both pretty good in this one. The fastball obviously was great here. Skenes, just to put this in perspective, his rookie season, 2 earned runs or fewer in 17 of 20 starts, 6+ strikeouts in 18 of 20 starts. So Obviously, he's been incredibly consistent, walks her up a little bit here in the second half. But, Scott, what do you think of this? I mean, like they said he was going to be limited. There's a certain inning threshold they don't want him to get to. And then, boom, he throws 6 innings. He throws 98 pitches.
Yeah, well, we don't know exactly what limited means. And so I'm going to predict that he'll make 2 more starts this year, and they'll probably be normal conventional starts, but it'll probably be just 2. They are inserting another pitcher, I believe, tomorrow, which prevents Paul Skenes from being a 2-start pitcher this week. But like Reid Detmers, he should be a 2-start pitcher next week because it's a 7-game week. And he'll be going against the Cardinals in the first start. He'll be going against the Reds in the second start. And then I think they'll shut him down, prevent him from making a third and final start, the final weekend against the Yankees. That would be my suspicion if you're out there mapping out Paul Skenes. You're playing for Paul Skenes rest of season. I do want to point out, and I guess you already touched on this, I had begun to question not so much the ability of Paul Skenes, but if he was quite up to ace caliber after he obviously got off to a tremendous start, but the whiffs kind of evaporated for him. He had gone, let's see, it was an 11-start stretch where only one of those 11 starts had 15 or more swinging strikes. So it was just kind of, still a fine swinging strike rate, but not the overwhelming one we saw early on. But these last 2 starts with Skenes mixing in more change-ups, and in this start more sliders, just kind of changing his pitch mix a bit, becoming less predictable. Back-to-back starts with 15 or more swinging strikes. So it was 1 and 11, and now it's 2 and 2. With a lot of swinging strikes for Paul Skenes. So I take that as a good sign for his maturity and his development, and think it's pretty clear he'll be drafted as an ace in fantasy next year.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking now just at his swinging strike rates. Again, this is Paul Skenes since, it started to dip down towards the end of June. So let's just punch this in. From June 29th on, he's made 11 starts. Before today, it was a 12% swinging strike rate. So that isn't exactly ace caliber. I see what you're saying there. I also think we're holding Paul Skenes to a really high standard, rightfully
Sure.
so. I mean, some people are going to draft him as like a top 3, top 5 starting pitcher in fantasy next year. So you want to be assured that you're going to get lots of whiffs. I also think it's part of just, all right, his full rookie season. Maybe there's been a little bit of ups and downs and him just kind of learning things along the way. I think he's looks like he's going to have a great career. Obviously, I gave Chris a buy or sell last week. Paul Skenes should be drafted as the SP1 next year. Buy or sell it.
I gotta sell that. I mean, let's not pretend there aren't other good pitchers out there.
Yeah, I think Skubal is like the obvious SP1.
Skubal, will be number 1. I imagine I'll take Zach Wheeler ahead of Skenes.
I think you can make a pretty good argument for Skenes to be the SP2, though. I couldn't take him ahead of Skubal personally, but
some people will do it, I'm sure. I think I saw an early mock. It wasn't a very good early mock at all, but I think Skenes was the first pitcher taken in that one. There was a lot I could criticize about that mock, but people are thinking about it clearly. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like we'll want to downgrade Chris Sale a bit, just given his health history. And Tyler Glasnow, same thing. Corbin Burns, because of some of the concerns over his swing and miss. So, yeah, I mean, Paul Skenes, I think we can pretty safely say top 5, and maybe it will end up more like top 3. But me personally, I feel pretty confident I'll take both Tarek Skubal and Zach Wheeler over him.
All right. Quick reminder that you can always listen to FBT and our 5-minute podcast, FBT in 5, on Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, you can scan the QR code and that will take you right to the FBT Spotify feed. Let's take our first break. And when we return, we will talk about those prospect promotions right after this.
You hear that? It's the steady pulse of the world's game that's turning fans into family and sport into passion. You hear that? It's the heartbeat of American soccer. The USL on CBS Sports Network.
All right, better late than never. The Yankees recalled Jasson Dominguez, who started in center field on Monday. He was batting sixth. And regarding playing time, Brian Cashman recently said Dominguez wouldn't rejoin the team unless he was going to play regularly. So, based on that quote, I guess they could always change their mind, but I would expect Jasson Dominguez to play quite a bit here. There's already been a report that Alex Verdugo is expected to see less playing time as a result of this promotion. Dominguez still just 21 years old, and in the minors this season, 314 batting average, 11 homers, 16 steals, and an 880 OPS across 3 levels. He is 57% rostered. Scott, do you think Dominguez is a must-add for the final 2 weeks of the season?
I mean, you get into those shallower 3 outfielder leagues, and like, who are you dropping? So
Somebody
I
asked
stopped
me today, Cruz or Dominguez?
Cruz or Dominguez, Dylan Cruz or Dominguez. I gotta. I think I'm gonna say Dylan Cruz, but that's. It feels like a coin flip. Who's going to be better the rest of the way? The good thing about Jasson Dominguez is he's already semi-proven. I mean, we saw him in the majors late last year. He homered 4 times in 8 games, and the power would have been the part of his game that I would have been more concerned about than the speed, because you see his stolen base totals in the minors. I mean, he's very prolific on the bases. I'm not sure it matters exactly how he was performing in the minors leading up to this promotion, given that he's already semi-proven in the majors, but for what it's worth, Dominguez was batting .347 with 4 home runs in his last 18 games at AAA. So very, very hot. A part of the reason I might not drop Cruz for him is that there is that slight concern about playing time. I agree Jasson Dominguez will start most every game. That's my expectation. But Verdugo homered. He started, first of all. Jasson Dominguez's first game in the lineup, Verdugo was also in the lineup. It was Giancarlo Stanton who was out. And I don't think that will be the most common arrangement. But it's notable that they didn't immediately move Verdugo from the lineup, and then Verdugo homered. And he's also swinging a pretty hot bat right now, I have to say. His last 15 games, .333 with 2 home runs. So are they just going to completely remove him and only use him as to give Stanton a day off? I'm not totally convinced of that. So just that little bit of doubt would lead me to side with Cruz over Dominguez. But I could say Dominguez, I'd have him as a top 40 outfielder the rest of the way. So if top 40 means must roster in your league, then sure, he's must roster.
Mm-hmm. And the only other thing I was going to mention about the playing time is Jasson Dominguez is a switch hitter. So you would think that would bode well for splits and he should be able to play every day. I just looked into his minor league splits. He's actually pretty bad against lefties. And we see this for lots of switch hitters that get called up, is that they're still really not switch hitters. They're very clearly much better from one side than the other. Ellie De La Cruz was one, and he's gotten better this year. But maybe Dominguez is not so good against lefties right away, at least not based on the minor league splits there. So Dominguez, 57% rostered, obviously all 5 outfielder leagues. And, if you're a little bit, more desperate and he's out there in a 3 outfielder league, I think you can go for it. But yeah, I think I would side with someone like Dylan Cruz over Jasson Dominguez. Let's talk about the Rangers, who are calling up Kumer Rocker to make his major league debut Thursday against the Mariners. And we've been raving about Rocker recently, who's been awesome since returning in the minors this year. Still just 24 years old, 1.96 ERA, a .79 whip, 55 strikeouts over 36 2/3 innings across 3 levels. He had 8+ strikeouts in 4 of his last 5 outings in the minors, and it's been a long road. There's Tommy John surgery, being drafted in the first round twice by 2 different teams in successive years. So it's taken a while, but now Kumer Rocker is getting a chance. He's 18% rostered. I'm excited to watch him pitch, Scott. I just don't know how much of an impact he can make this late in the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of him having maybe 3 turns, and how many turns is it going to take for you to come around to using him, to feel confident he's going to be impactful for you right away. And to a certain extent, that depends on the depth of your league and the quality of your alternatives. But I'm very excited. if nothing else, I'm very excited to get this sneak peek at Kumer Rocker, whose prospect stock has up and down wildly. It's gone up and down wildly over the years with all the injuries and the draft fake outs and even performance. He hasn't always looked like a high-end prospect, but clearly he has this year. I would say Kumer Rocker's prospect stock might be as high as it's ever been right now. So if you just look at his 7 starts between AA and AAA this year, not only is there an 0.91 ERA, his strike percentage is 71%, and his swinging strike percentage is 23%. That's like George Kirby and Spencer Strider all rolled into one against minor league hitters, granted, but you just don't see numbers like that. And so I'm very excited to see how that's going to translate to the majors. I'm more excited about Kumer Rocker than Jack Leiter, for instance. And yeah, deeper leagues pick him up. Shallower leagues be on high alert, because if he dominates his first time out, you'll potentially want to use him down the stretch the last couple weeks.
I do think there are circumstances where you could just throw him out there and stream him, right? We mentioned this with Jack Leiter the other day, who is also facing the Mariners later this week. If you're just streaming for strikeouts or looking to pick up a win, Kumer Rocker threw 65 pitches in his previous start, so I don't know. You'd probably be lucky to get 5 innings out of him, but he could rack up some strikeouts here if that's all you're looking for. So I could see streaming him in that sense, but yeah, the ratios, it's a little bit risky in someone's major league debut. Go ahead.
Because I pointed this out the other day. The Rangers might have the most favorable remaining pitching schedule.
Okay.
So he's scheduled to debut when? What day this week?
Thursday
against the Mariners. So that's great. So then next week he would start against the Blue Jays, presumably. If he gets pushed back a day, it would be against the Mariners again. Mm-hmm. And then the final week, it looks like it would be the Athletics. So Mariners this week, probably Blue Jays next week, probably Athletics the following week for Kumer Rocker. Yeah, I mean, look, you got a spot to play with, even in shallow leagues. It's worth picking him up, even if you don't find occasion to use him. At least he won't be a secret weapon used against you.
Mm-hmm. And even I think in keeper leagues too, if you just want to speculate for next year, I mean, if he just comes out and looks amazing these final 3 starts, he could have a spot in their opening day rotation next season. And again, this was a pitcher who had lots of prospect pedigree coming out of college initially. So yeah, I think you want to speculate in a keeper or dynasty league, that totally makes sense. Speaking of dynasty, I asked you this question recently about, I'm forgetting the name now, Rockies Chase Dolander, when we spoke about him potentially selling high. Would you look to maybe sell high on Kumer Rocker and all the hype that's coming with him right now in dynasty leagues?
No, I don't think so. Unless, I mean, obviously it would depend on the exact offer. He's not my number 1 prospect or anything like that. But I think last time we talked about Kumer Rocker, I said he'd be a top 50 prospect for me today, which would put him pretty high among pitching prospects, higher than Dollander, for instance. And, other than, unless it's to swap out a pitching prospect for a hitting prospect, which is usually not a bad idea given the increased risk that comes with pitching prospects. Other than that, though, I don't think so. I think I'd want to see how close he comes to meeting his upside.
All right. Again, that is Kumer Rocker making his Rangers debut, his major league debut this Thursday against the Mariners. Let's talk some news and notes. Not really too much going on here, but Tyler Glasnow is scheduled to throw another bullpen on Tuesday, followed by a simulated game on Friday. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was seen limping to the dugout after fouling a ball off his left foot, but he was able to remain in the game. He was sent for x-rays, but thankfully they came back negative. The Cubs are hopeful Justin Steele will be cleared to throw a bullpen session at some point during their current road trip, which runs until Sunday in Colorado. He went on the IL with left elbow tendonitis last week, and I think it would be pretty aggressive if he returned for any starts this season, but Could be wrong. Teoscar Hernandez was out of the lineup again and has now missed 3 straight due to a left ankle contusion. JT Realmuto remained out of the lineup Monday as well due to a left knee contusion. He's aiming to return on Friday. The Braves placed Travis d'Arnaud on the paternity list. The Twins placed Christian Vasquez on the paternity list. Paul Blackburn was scratched from his start Monday due to a back issue. Tyler McGill started in his place and was awesome. And DJ LeMahieu was placed in the IL with a right hip impingement, and that was the corresponding move to get Jasson Dominguez on the roster.
Yeah, I'm so frustrated about that Blackburn one because I added him as a sleeper pitcher at the last minute because I had to remove so many at the last minute. By the end, we learned just today, Monday, about so many pitchers being inserted to rotation midweek, just these openings in the pitching schedule for so many teams that by the end, there was only like 10 two-star pitchers worth using in fantasy. So hopefully you caught the updates. I think I put them out there at about 4 p.m. The first game, I think, was 6:40 p.m.
Yeah.
So not a lot of time to react to it. But even with those last-minute updates, still missed Blackburn getting scratched because he was among the two-star pitchers, and he's not making 2 starts.
All right, let's get into some of the waiver wire options from Monday's action. We already spoke about Reid Detmers, who I think is pretty clearly the top waiver wire pitcher from the day. Nick Martinez was great at the Atlanta Braves, 7 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts. He had 12 whiffs on 97 pitches. 7 of those came on the changeup. He's always had a really good changeup. The problem for Nick Martinez is I'm not really sure he has much else besides that. He did rejoin the Reds rotation on August 5th. And in 8 starts since, he has a 3.12 ERA and a 1.08 WHIP, 22% rostered. I don't know, Scott. What do you think about Nick Martinez? Would you be looking at him? Probably more in deeper leagues, but he's been okay.
Well, yeah, the changeup's great. Does he have anything else? Yeah. He has a career best 3.6% walk rate this year, which is elite. He had never been that good of a control pitcher, but he has been this year. Also a career high fly ball rate, which you could take as good or bad. But probably what this was here on Monday for Nick Martinez was just him taking advantage of a bad lineup. We haven't talked about it a lot, but like we haven't like attacked it dead on. But we have more often been recommending pitchers against the Braves recently, and I think it should continue because they just have so many holes, so many cast-offs in their lineup right now that it's not surprising when a relatively obscure pitcher like Nick Martinez just flat out dominates them. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad it happened. Second week of the semifinal round in the Scott White Dynasty League, I'm down 100 points. So I got a lot of catching up to do. Picked up a 2-start Nick Martinez. Not a lot of pitchers to be picked up in a 24-team league, but Nick Martinez was out there. 30.5 points.
Hey.
What if I get 50 points just from Nick Martinez this week? Halfway making up that deficit. Nick Martinez. That would be amazing.
I saw your message you put out too, and I think you said something along those lines. Hey, Nick Martinez might lead the charge. 50 fantasy points this week. And of course I read it and I scoffed at it. I said, there's no way Nick Martinez is going to give you that. Well, he's more than halfway there. So we'll see if he can pull it off.
And this can happen at times, you know, sometimes you just got to play a hunch to get some extra volume in your lineup. The podcast league, the podcast listeners league, the longer standing one, head-to-head points. 3 of the first 4 years I won it. And the first 2 years, I believe both times, I picked up Bruce Chen for 2 starts the last week of the year. And both times he came through with a huge performance for me. So wow. Nick Martinez, the new Bruce Chen, I guess.
Scratch that off your FBT bingo card. Did not think we were going to get a Bruce Chen reference out in today's episode. Getting back to the names, Nick Martinez and Reid Detmers. I assume we're not taking either of those over somebody like Matthew Boyd, right? He's the most added pitcher on CBS.
Well, Boyd is facing the White Sox this week, and he lines up for 2 starts next week. So, I mean, definitely Boyd over Martinez. But Detmers, I'd rather have Detmers than Boyd, I think. I think the upside's a little higher there, and he also lines up for 2 starts. They're basically in the same category, but a slight preference for Detmers.
I really like what we've seen from Matthew Boyd, so I think I would stick with him, but it is pretty close between those two. Rhett Lauder is the 3rd most added starting pitcher on CBS. I think people are listening to your chasing volume here, Scott, and they're trying to pick up a 2-star Rhett Lauder. But, I mean, outside of that, I think I'd rather take a shot on a Detmers over Rhett Lauder at this point.
Yeah, Lauder is 2 starts this week, right?
Yep.
So for weekly leagues, it's kind of a moot point. Can't go out and get him now, but I wasn't thrilled to use him anyway.
Yeah. Well, once that Cardinals game starts tomorrow or Tuesday and locks in Rhett Lauder, or I guess, no, the Reds already played. So, all right, Rhett Lauder's already locked in weekly leagues. You can go ahead and make that swap now. You could just drop him for Reid Detmers, and then boom, you'll have Reid Detmers for the 2-star week next week. 2 waiver wire pitchers in deeper leagues. I was not kidding when I said you can stream anybody against the White Sox. Joey Cantillo, amazing. Actually, was chasing a perfect game for most of this outing here. 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 10 strikeouts, 14 whiffs on 99 pitches. The first quality start of Joey Cantillo's career. And the minor league numbers the past couple of years, not great. Everything leading up to 2023 was actually pretty impressive in the minors, but everything since has not been. He is 2% rostered. And the other name here is Tyler McGill, who was awesome at the Blue Jays. He threw 6 shutout innings with 9 strikeouts, 15 whiffs on 88 pitches. Changed up the pitch mix in this one, through a lot more sinkers, and clearly it helped. Deep league stuff here, Scott, but anything to see in Joey Cantillo or Tyler McGill?
Well, Joey Cantillo entered with a 7.71 ERA in 5 appearances. And it's interesting that he did this on a day that Cade Povich started. Because if you'll remember, Cade Povich faced the White Sox last time and had similar numbers to what Cantillo did. 10 strikeouts and 7 1/3 shutout innings was what Povich did in his last turn. And he came back here today and got bombed by the Red Sox, which is what we're used to seeing from Povich. So I imagine it's going to go the same way with Cantillo. He just took advantage of a minor league lineup and dominated the White Sox. His minor league track record, it includes a lot of strikeouts, but also very high walk rates. So at AAA this year, Joey Cantillo had 5.9 walks per 9 innings, and he's pretty consistently over 5 per 9. And it's not like he's a flamethrower. He has a good changeup, which sometimes can lead to inflated numbers against minor league hitters. I don't think there's much to see with Joey Cantillo. And who was the other one we were talking about?
Tyler McGill.
Tyler McGill. Yeah, there's, of course, we've seen ups and downs from McGill. And probably nothing's changed with this strong outing at Toronto. But you mentioned he changed the pitch mix, throwing a lot more sinkers, and we saw his 4-seamer play up. So I just wonder if that makes for a more effective counter. The velocity was up more than a mile per hour on both of those pitches too, which probably helped. I keep thinking there's something there. There's something else there, another gear to find there for Tyler McGill, and I keep being let down by it. Probably this isn't a breakthrough for Tyler McGill, but I'm keeping an open mind with them.
Mm-hmm. If you do trust the ERA estimators, they say that Tyler McGill has deserved much better luck this season. He's got a 4.48 ERA, a 3.53 FIP, and a 3.93 xFIP. Now his expected ERA is about 4.5, so that's a little bit more in line here. But yeah, perhaps a little bit unluckiness here from Tyler McGill. Wanted to mention David Festa, who had a rough first outing of the week here in a 2-start week. And it was a good matchup on paper, obviously, and he had been pitching well. 4 innings, 4 runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Both the slider and changeup look good. That's been the case typically, but the fastball got hit hard. 98.5 average exit velocity, and that's been a pretty consistent issue early on in David Festa's career. He's 57% rostered. Looks like he gets the Reds later this week, and then he's at the Red Sox next week. So I think a similar situation, Scott. If he's locked in for the 2-start week in a weekly lineup league, I think you could probably drop David Festa for like a Reid Detmers if you wanted to make that swap.
Yeah, I would not be that motivated to hold on to Festa after he let us down in this first start of a 2-start week, where again, he was one of the only advisable 2-start options. It ended up only being 9, I guess, since Blackburn's 2-start status was lost at the last minute. But yeah, Festa, big letdown here.
All right, let's take our final break, and when we return, we'll talk waiver wire hitters, and then I have a game. We will test Scotty in a game of Guess Who. We'll do that right after this.
Football action continues.
Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances?
As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North.
It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield.
Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
Let's run through some waiver wire hitters quickly. Not really too many names here, but Austin Wells, I wanted to mention, continues to impress. 2 for 5 with his 13th home run, 4 RBI. He has started 9 of the past 11 games. Those 2 games he missed were also because he got hit by a pitch, and I forgot where he got hit, but it forced him out of the lineup for a couple of games. It looks like he's just fully back to being the everyday catcher for the Yankees, and in 28 games as the cleanup hitter, he's batting .309 with 6 homers, 28 RBI, and an OPS over 900. Austin Wells is 55% rostered. Yesterday, I asked you, Scott, to rank Shea Langoliers, Joey Bart, and Austin Wells. I believe you had Wells on the bottom of that list. Would you like to remedy that?
I'm going to put him second now. I'm going to put him over Bart.
Yeah.
And the main thing is I hadn't seen how much his playing time increased. So that seemed like the biggest obstacle for Austin Wells, whose expected stats are pretty strong.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, considering he's a left-handed hitter, most of his power has come at on the road, which makes me think he's underperformed a little at home. And if anything, his expected stats, if anything, he's fallen short with the expected slug. He's slugging less than he should. So that kind of fits with that idea that he's underperformed at home.
Mm-hmm. Let's run through some deeper league names here. Jesus Sanchez has, he's hit well in the second half. I bring his name up here there, but he still doesn't play against lefties. He's really bad against lefties. 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored in this game. The StatCast data is awesome for Jesus Sanchez. 93 mile per hour average exit velocity, 12.6% barrel rate. He's only 18% rostered. Bo Naylor had himself a huge game, 2 for 3 with a sock and 2 shoes. He's up to 12 homers and 6 steals on the season. And I was looking in what's gone wrong for Bo Naylor. He was a popular sleeper pick this year. 31.5% K rate. I think that will explain a lot of it. And also he's been really, really bad against lefties. And Rob Refsnyder had himself a huge game. I don't really think there's anything here outside of like AL only leagues, but 4 for 4 with a double dong, 5 RBI, short side platoon bat. He's only started 5 of the past 15 games, but overall really good numbers for Refsnyder. Anything to add here, Scott, on Sanchez and Bo Naylor? Do they need to be more than like 24% roster?
I got to say, Jesus Sanchez is like your Jonathan Aranda.
I love him.
Never give up, Frank. Never give it up.
I wish I
never think about league. I never spend a second thought on Jesus Sanchez, and you're like bringing him up every week.
That's true. He's my new Willie Calhoun, who I still love and I'm still rooting for. I hope it works out. I just don't think it's going to probably not Major League Baseball. Maybe like the Savannah Bananas or something like that. For my guy, Willie Calhoun. All right, let's get into this game, Scotty, a game of Guess Who. So how this will work is I've got 5 clues set up, 4 different players. I've got 5 clues set up. I will go 1 clue at a time. I'll give you a chance to make a guess if you'd like to. You can just blurt out guesses whenever you want. But basically, you have to get it by the end of the 5th clue.
Is the 5th clue obvious?
I tried to make them, yeah. I think they get a little bit easier and they get a little bit wackier as we go along, too. So let's get into it. I got 3 hitters and 1 pitcher. I've got some game show music, so I'm going to turn this thing on, and I guess I'll pay attention to the YouTube chat. Let me know, YouTube, if the audio sounds right here, if it's too loud, if it's too low, if it's kind of interfering with our audio here, but let's jump in. Is that too low? It sounds low. Yeah. Guess Who? Game show music. Here we are.
Sonic the Hedgehog feelings with this.
All right. The first player is a hitter. Are you ready, Scott?
Yeah.
And take off the rundown because I don't want you looking ahead at
Oh, okay.
at any of the clues or anything. All right. First up, my preseason ADP was 62, and I currently rank 67th overall in Roto.
Ah,
So has basically paid off so far.
yeah.
All right. Keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
I got off to a slow start, but in the second half, I'm batting .312 with 5 homers, 14 steals, and an .887 OPS.
O'Neal Cruz.
Gosh, you're good at this. How'd you get that? That's pretty good.
That was the first name that came to mind on the first clue. And I knew O'Neal Cruz had a lot of steals, but not many home runs in the second half, you said? So, yeah, O'Neal Cruz.
So the other clues, I'll just read them off real quick. I ranked 97th percentile or better in average exit velocity, barrel rate, hard hit rate, and bat speed. At 6'7", I'd make for a pretty good tight end in the NFL. Shout out to my Jets, of course. New year, same old Jets. And one might say I hit the ball hard.
Oh, you were so proud of that one. You had to read the rest.
That was pretty good.
That was good.
I did want to mention with O'Neal Cruz, it's been a big second half. He's hitting well. He's stealing bases. The OPS looks good, but only 5 home runs. And I noticed his ground ball rate is up to 51% here in the second half. He's still hitting the ball hard. Barrel rate looks great. But I don't know. It's been an interesting season here to evaluate O'Neal Cruz. What do you make of this lack of power in the second half?
I don't know what I make of it. Is his fly ball rate low? Is he putting a lot of balls on the ground? That would be the simplest explanation.
51% ground ball rate in the second half.
Yeah. So he has some work to do on optimizing the launch angle, but you hit the ball this hard, there's so much potential to unlock there power-wise, and I like that he's improved his strikeout rate so much, especially in August and September, around a 23% rate. So I think overall, I'm still pretty excited about Cruz. I imagine he'll be drafted later next year than he was this year, though.
All right, the chat is telling me that the game show music is low, so we're turning it up a little bit here. Next player is also a hitter. Scott, are you ready?
Yes.
My preseason ADP was 134.8, and I'm currently 41st overall in Roto.
Mm-hmm. Cha-ching.
Big gainer here. Including this season, I have 8 seasons with 20-plus home runs.
Oh. So we got a vet.
Mm-hmm.
Big-time vet.
I lead my position with 98 RBI.
That's a lot of RBI.
Really
I'm
good.
going to guess... No, he wouldn't have 8 seasons with 20 homers. Never mind. I'm not going to guess. I don't want to guess wrong. I'm pretty sure this was a wrong guess.
Okay, I won a World Series ring in 2015.
Oh, who won the World Series in 2015?
Oh.
I don't know. 2015. Man, that was so long ago.
It was, right? Nearly a decade at this point. All right, well, this is the last clue.
The last one. Okay.
It might be a giveaway. Lord made a hit song referencing the team I play for.
Okay. Royals, obviously. 8. Who's still around? So that was the team he won the World Series with. Oh, Salvador Perez.
Salvador Perez, who had himself a huge game here on Monday. 4 for 4 with his 26th home run, 3 RBI. He is currently the number 2 catcher in both Roto and head-to-head points leagues. I mentioned the 98 RBI lead the position, 26 home runs, second at the position, still hitting the ball hard. He just gets it done, man. He's having another great season. I know, like, at times over the years, it looked like he was starting to fade. I think we just still draft Salvador Perez with confidence next year. I don't see anything in the numbers that say he's fading now.
I mean, one of my biggest frustrations this year is that I was one of the biggest supporters of Salvador Perez following his record-setting home run season for a catcher. I was touting him as my prime catcher target each of the next 2 years. And he let me down. And so this year I was like, Salvador Perez, bust. And he's been the second best catcher in fantasy. Better than Adley Rutschman, by the way, who's been bombing here in the second half. I don't know what's going on with him.
Same thing with Will Smith, who's kind of having a down season here. So
Yeah.
can you see yourself jumping back in on Salvador Perez next year?
I mean, I'm going to rank it behind Rushman and Smith, as well as William Contreras, but it'll probably be fourth for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, next up is a pitcher. My preseason ADP was 230.4, and I currently rank 172nd overall. The SP 39 in head-to-head points leagues.
All right, kind of middling.
Okay. I have a 285 FIP and a 317 XFIP on the season.
Ooh. Should be better than 39th then. Unless
Yeah.
he missed some time. Has he missed time?
I don't think so.
Okay.
My 58% ground ball rate ranks third among qualified pitchers.
Oh.
This
Is
sounds
it,
like
is it Christopher Sanchez?
This sounds like a pitcher you should love, right, Scott?
It's Christopher Sanchez.
It is Christopher Sanchez.
Okay.
The final two clues here. I've kind of been the bane of Scott's existence this season.
I mean, I don't know. I had him as a sleeper, and it sounds like he's overperformed his ADP by quite a bit.
Yeah. And then
But-
I share a first name with Adriana Lacerva's husband in The Sopranos.
Christopher? Yeah.
Christopher! That's
yeah.
right.
Okay.
So Christopher Sanchez, I wanted to mention another great start here on Monday. 6 shutout innings, 4 strikeouts, 16 whiffs on 94 pitches. 8 of those came on the changeup, which continues to be an elite pitch for him this season. And last 5 starts, a 2.14 ERA, a .92 whip, 31 strikeouts to just 3 walks over 33 2/3 innings. I know we've had some on and off with Sanchez, but Scott, it looks like he's back on.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing different things. He was throwing much harder early on, but that caused the walks to increase without really improving the strikeouts that much. And then just everything's fluctuated so much. But it looks like here recently he's gotten back to being who he was last year. The pitcher I liked so much coming in, which is elite ground ball skills, elite control, and enough bat missing potential with that changeup that the strikeouts aren't going to be what brings him down. So I had him active for this 2-start week, and so far so good.
All right, and last up, we have another hitter. My preseason ADP was 123.2. I currently rank 21st overall in Roto.
Woohoo!
Huge gainer. This
That's
guy.
nice, yeah.
I am just the 8th switch hitter to hit 40 home runs in a season.
Okay, I should be able to get it now. Is Anthony Santander a switch hitter? Is it Anthony Santander?
Boom!
Yeah.
You got it. Final clues. My previous high was 33 home runs in 2022. I am in a contract year, and my nickname is Tony Taters.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. I looked up Baseball Reference for all these to see if they have any cool nicknames, and yeah, Anthony Santander, who hit his 40th home run of the season on Monday. And basically the way he's done it, he has just leaned all the way into fly balls this year. 57% fly ball rate is a career high. 12.2% barrel rate, also a career high for Anthony Santander, who has 94 RBI. He's hitting in the middle of one of the best lineups in baseball, and he's in a contract year. So it will be interesting to see what kind of contract he gets this offseason. Does he remain with the Orioles? But clearly he's been a huge breakout season for Santander.
It's a profile I hate. It's a hitter I'm never excited to draft because it's so one-dimensional.
The old Mike Moustakas, huh?
I guess. I mean, Santander's been more consistent with the power production than Moustakas was. And you know what? Moustakas didn't strike out much, so that was kind of nice. But if you compare Santander to somebody like Kyle Schwarber, well, Schwarber walks a lot, and Santander absolutely doesn't. So if he has a down year power-wise, he's going to do nothing for you. And so I'm always a little afraid to invest in that.
All right, Scott. Well,
you're digging this music.
Job well done. You got all.
That's it?
Yeah.
I wanted to keep going.
4 names. All right. Well, noted. More Guess Who for Scott next time we play. All right. I'm going to fade out this music. But yeah, that was fun. A little Guess Who. You crushed it. Some names we don't really talk often about, but some names that have been doing some things this season. Let's get back into Monday's action and just run through some of the leftovers. Some pitchers. First up, Charlie Morton, a quality start up against the Reds. 6 2/3 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts, had 12 whiffs on 100 pitches. And he's pitched much better as of late. Last 6 starts, a 2.88 ERA. Of course, it's a higher whip, 134 whip, but that's always the case for Morton. And Carlos Rodon, who turned in a quality start up against the Royals. 6 innings, 4 runs, 3 of those were earned. He had 9 strikeouts, 19 whiffs on 98 pitches. Strikeouts are not a problem right now. He is racking up whiffs, but he can be inconsistent with the home runs at times, and the ERA is still over 4. Anything to add here, Scott, on Rodon and Charlie Morton?
Not really. Morton, I don't trust him. Too many base runners, even when he keeps the runs off the board. And I think he's still vulnerable to some crooked stat lines. Rodon, feel like we've been given the same take for him after every start. If you look at the game log, it's not unblemished. There are some down points in there, but the overall stat line, as you mentioned, is strong over his last 2 or 3 months. So I think he's pretty close to must start. Yeah, last 9. Did you give the numbers last 9 starts for Carlos Rodon?
I did not.
3.33 ERA, 109 WHIP, 12.1 K per 9. You're probably going to start that guy.
Yeah, I think so. Some hitting leftovers, and this is why you listen to Scott White, and you hold on to Tyler O'Neill, who I asked about yesterday. 3 for 5 with a double dong, 3 runs, 3 RBI, and he has 7 multi-homer games on the season. I believe also in a contract year, so he'll be a name to watch this offseason. But he is just pulling the ball a ton, taking advantage of the green monster, obviously. Tyler O'Neill's 285 isolated power, 4th best among hitters with 400 plate appearances this season. And don't let anyone tell you that revenge games are not a real thing, because the Cubs are in LA to face the Dodgers. Cody Bellinger, 2 for 4 with his 16th home run, 3 RBI, and Michael Busch against the team that drafted him. 4 for 5 with his 17th home run, 3 runs, 3 RBI, finished a triple short of the cycle. Bellinger's had a, interesting season, Scott. We were talking about him beforehand. Like he's just kind of been okay. I don't really know what to expect for him, like contract wise this offseason. And Michael Busch has, he's had a fine season. He's available in some leagues. I actually picked him up because of the games in Coors Field later this week. I didn't really think about the revenge games, but both have had okay seasons, but maybe not like standout seasons.
I'm not so sure Cody Bellinger won't pick up the option on his contract.
So what is the option on his contract?
$27.5 million.
Yeah, probably will.
If Baseball Reference is correct. Because it's been pretty underwhelming. And the most discouraging part of it is you look at his StatCast page, average exit velocity, max exit velocity, strikeout rate, walk rate. It all pretty much looks the same. Except for the expected stats. The expected batting average and expected slug are lower, and they're very low. They weren't especially high last year, but they're definitely lower this year. And so I wonder what data point is responsible for that. If he's, let me look.
It looks like he's hitting more to the opposite field this season, Bellinger is.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's mostly come from his up the middle percentage rather than his pull percentage. His pull percentage doesn't look any worse.
True.
So I don't know. That's lower infield fly ball rate, actually. I guess it's just the ball isn't carrying as well for him, or he isn't. I don't know. He was a tough one to figure out how he had so much success last year. And of course, it was a popular bust pick. So I guess nobody should be that surprised by Bellinger having such an underwhelming year, but it doesn't bode well for the future.
Mm-hmm. Michael Busch, by the way, is 65% rostered. That probably sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, he sat against a right-hander yesterday, Sunday, and had been really struggling. And he only had, even though he had 4 hits, I think he only had 1 well-struck ball in this game. The home run was hit like 330 feet. It was one of the wimpiest home runs you'll ever see. So I don't know. I mean, the Cubs had the best matchups this week, right? They were number one. Yeah, they were number one. So Bush wouldn't have been a bad play based on that, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure this 4-for-4 performance really does anything to raise his stock.
All right, again, that was Michael Bush and Cody Bellinger. Bullpen updates for the Reds. Alexis Diaz pitched a clean ninth inning for his 27th save. For the Mets, Edwin Diaz gave up a hit, but picked up his 17th save. I wonder how many times the Diaz brothers have gotten saves on the same day. That sounds like something Chris Towers would find like in less than a minute. But I don't know how to find something.
It does. I don't know how he does it. Very good researcher.
For the Pirates, Aroldis Chapman got the ninth inning with a 2-run lead. He gave up 1 run on a walk and 2 hits, but picked up his 7th save. He remains 31% rostered. And yeah, I think there have been more interesting names that have emerged here as save sources than Aroldis Chapman. For the Phillies, Carlos Estevez got the ninth inning with a 1-run lead. He gave up a run on 2 hits. He took his 5th blown save, but picked up the win because on the other side, Tampa Bay lefty Garrett Clevenger entered with 1 out in the 9th, only recorded 1 out. He gave up a run on a walk and 3 hits. And for the Guardians, Emmanuel Clase struck out 2 for his 43rd save of the season. Does that lead the league, or is Helsley still at the top? I feel like maybe they have the same amount. Does that sound right?
Well, they are in opposite leagues. It's funny how in baseball you can say lead the league and you can mean either the whole MLB or
43 each for Clase and Ryan Helsley. How about that?
just half the MLB. You are missing what I think is the most important bullpen note of the day. Luke Weaver did not get the Yankees through the 9th today. He pitched the 8th. With a 3-run lead. It became a 7-run lead, and so nobody got the save. But it wasn't going to be Luke Weaver who lined up for the save. And that's unfortunate.
I wonder if they would have used him for a 2-inning save.
He allowed a couple base runners.
He had 23 pitches. They talked about it on the broadcast because Tommy Canley was warming up at the time too, so they could have gone to Canley in the 9th inning. But they also brought up the possibility of Weaver working 2 innings for a save. So I won't rule it out, but yeah, it is worth mentioning. And yeah, there was a chance that Canley would have just came in for the 9th. So
yeah, I mean, I still think Weaver's the guy to have. I still think he's the reliever Aaron Boone trusts the most. The 8th, it's worth noting, 3, 4, and 5 were due up for the Royals, but the only scary hitter there was Salvador Perez with bat second. So I don't know. It's annoying, but it doesn't look like it exclusively belongs to Weaver.
All right, to stream or not to stream on Tuesday, we have Aaron Savali, who is at the Giants, Osvaldo Bido at the Astros, Brett Lauder is at the Cardinals, Ben Lively is at the White Sox. Yes, 100% lock it in, start anybody against the White Sox.
Well, I think Ben Lively's been pushed back, actually.
Is he?
Or was he only pushed back a day? Because he had some kind of health issue. Let me double check here. I had to remove him from the 2-star pitchers. Yeah, I don't. It wasn't aggregated on like Roto World or
on MLB.com. They have Ben Lively for tomorrow.
Okay, maybe it was just pushed back a day then. That's why Cantillo ended up making that spot start.
Yeah. So I'm good with Lively here. I think, I don't know that Kader Montero is a good pitcher, but he's facing the Rockies in Detroit. So it wouldn't surprise me if that works out. And if I have to choose a third, I'd probably say Savali at the Giants.
Savali, Lively, and who was the third one?
I said Kader Montero versus the Rockies.
Oh, gosh. It could work out.
Yeah. He also has a 5.47 ERA, so maybe it won't work out.
I mean, yeah, of course, maybe it won't work out. You tempted at all by Taj Bradley at Philly? Nope.
Which means he'll probably have 10 strikeouts.
I'm a little tempted. If strikeouts are the priority, a little tempted.
Okay. And on Wednesday, we have Matthew Boyd at the White Sox. Yes, lock it in, 100%. Cody Bradford is at the D-backs. Tough matchup. We have Austin Gomber is at the Tigers. Casey Mize faces the Rockies in Detroit. Zebby Matthews gets the Angels. Dean Kramer is at the Red Sox. JP Sears has pitched well, but he's at the Astros. And Colin Ray at the Giants.
Yeah, let's say, obviously, Matthew Boyd, which you already said.
I think I would still say Bradford, even though it's a tough matchup.
Nobody else. Yeah, I mean, Bradford and Sears would probably be the next two, even though they're both tough matchups.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's wrap up with Team Name Tuesday. And if you would like to send us a team name, you can email fantasybaseball@cbsi.com. That's the letter I. And these are from Maddie Ballgame. If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times.
Very good. I like this one.
I hope
my kind of team name.
I hope he Reese Hines his contract.
Yeah, definitely have to say it aloud to get it, but sure, it works.
Whoever smeltzered it, deltzered it.
Sure.
And the last one is Ort for Ort's sake.
Ort for Ort's sake. I don't know what that's. Is
No
that
idea.
sport for sport's sake? Is that an expression?
There's a Caleb Ort.
Yeah, I know Ort's somebody's name, but I'm not sure what the team name refers to.
No idea.
Yeah.
All right.
There's some idiom, I'm sure. These were good submissions from Matty Ballgame. Good job.
These are from, this one is from Michael. I'm going to use this for my fantasy baseball and fantasy football team name. This is incredible. Sean Murphy Bunting. Which is cool because that's the name of a cornerback in the NFL. But it's also, there's Sean Murphy, the Braves player, and then his last name is Bunting.
Okay. Thank you for...
There's a lot going on there.
Thank you for explaining that one. My cornerback knowledge is a little weak right now. You don't draft those guys in fantasy.
Yeah, these are from Chris. Food for Thought.
All right.
And it was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Is there a player named Fott?
I don't know. Maybe he meant to write like Brandon Fott.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's spelled in the notes here, F-O-T-T. Of course there's a player named Fott.
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed that too. I was like, well, F-O-T-T. I don't know who that
Fott.
is. Yeah. Chris also sent in from Seinfeld edition names, team names. It appears I have to say this in a whining voice. But I don't want to be a Pittsburgh Pirate.
You did that very well. Like someone who has watched Seinfeld before.
No, I thought you were going to say as someone who whines a lot. And I will tell you right now, Scott, I was a terrible kid. I was a really, really bad kid. And I cried a lot when I was a kid.
Well, I don't know that crying a lot makes you a bad kid.
I was very whiny as a kid.
You're a whiny. You're a little neurotic now. Would you say neurotic?
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably more so. And I don't know that I was lacking in the whining department. So there may be a correlation there.
Hey, look at us. Fantasy football, whiny little kids. This is what you can grow up to be. More from Seinfeld. The Yanks are real and they're spectacular.
Yeah.
Festivus for the rest of us.
Yeah, okay. Festivus for that. And we got back-to-back good uses of Festa's name here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how the Yanks are real and they're spectacular. I don't really know how that fits. I mean, I understand what it's referring to in Seinfeld, and we don't need to get into that too much, but I just don't know. Are you just like a Yankees fan, so you want to say how good the Yankees are? I don't know.
I don't know either.
It doesn't really seem like a fantasy team name, you know?
And Yada Yada Yoshida.
Okay.
This one's from Joe D. Chorio Govna.
All right. I like these submissions today.
This last one is from Vince. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Yeah, timely with the sequel coming out. It feels weird to call it a sequel 35 years later or whatever it is, but
Don't get me started, Scott. I am so over just all these filmmakers trying to touch on nostalgia and bring everything back from the 80s and 90s, which don't get me wrong. I love things from the 80s and 90s. pretty big fan of Cobra Kai, and that basically does the same thing. But I don't know. I'm kind of over it now.
Oh, yeah. No, I would say so. I mean, it just seems like that's the only way they get people in the theater. At least in the case of this movie, it's still... Let me double check this. But I believe it is, yeah, still Tim Burton. So a much older Tim Burton.
True.
Than the one who did the first Beetlejuice. Not that I was a huge fan of Beetlejuice, but, you know,
I like it quite
clever.
I like it quite a bit. I watched that a lot growing up, which I will watch the second part of it, but it's just the concept of, I don't know. It feels like kind of a money grab, but I don't know. Everything's a money grab. Anyway.
I mean, I don't know how you could say you're a big fan of 80s and 90s culture when you've never seen like Jurassic Park and Terminator and... Have you seen Aliens? That was a big one.
Everything that I've seen from the 80s and 90s, I seem to like a lot.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Have you seen that one? Ghostbusters?
I see Ghostbusters.
Okay.
I like it. Ghostbusters is good.
Yeah.
I don't have any complaints. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the things I've watched from the 80s and 90s, they're really good. But I feel like we should just leave them in the 80s and 90s, you know?
I don't know. Try watching some more. You might even become a bigger fan.
Look, the baseball season's almost over. I've already told my wife, hey, you've got to sit down and watch all these Jurassic Park movies so they can stop badgering me about it.
No. That's where you're wrong. You just need to watch Jurassic Park. You don't need to watch all the Jurassic Park movies.
Okay. Just one of them?
Just one. Just the original Jurassic Park. And that's all you really need. The rest is just
that sounds perfect
to sell action figures. You don't need it.
Okay. What about Terminator? How many of those do I watch?
Oh, well, those the first two, and especially two.
Okay.
One gives you a nice bit of background for two, but it's really all about two. One's solid, two's spectacular.
If somebody wants to send in or tweet at me like everything that I should watch from the 80s or 90s that I haven't, which is pretty much everything, feel free to send that in. Let me know.
And I'll admit, I kind of like Terminator 3. I kind of like it, but it's not essential viewing. You can stop at 2.
All right, this was very helpful. We're going to wrap there. For Scott, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.